shout, oh, wonderful creation, turning inside out. He's making his will made known. Time for peace is now. Leaders at the table, talking about an end to war. We need more than chess moves. We gotta open up the door and let little sunlight shine on each and every face. In the sunlight of the morning, let don't black the human race. Sing, we are one family. We are too close not to let it be. We are sisters and brothers, a coat of many colors, you and me. Feel the expectation, all the world around. Everybody's waiting to hear the joyful sound. Oh, nation singing out in harmony. There's a new world in the making. Won't you sing along with me? We are one family. We are too close not to let it be. We are sisters and brothers, a coat of many colors. We are one family. We are too close not to let it be. We are sisters and brothers, a coat of many colors, you and me. Shouting from the mountaintop.
Welcome to the series on home, our original home. The home that cannot be intruded by anyone, a home that cannot be corrupted, a home that cannot be demolished by anyone or anything. In these times when destruction is just ahead of us, whatever we see in this world has an end, and we can see a lot of conflict and also a lot of sorrow in the minds of human beings. No one feels at home here, even if they live in a palace. As we already discussed, our home is an awareness, an environment that allows us to experience being in our highest on high true self. Our home is in the company of the Supreme Soul, God, who is highest on high and who is able to maintain the consciousness of being an ever pure, ever peaceful, ever knowledgeful being of light. And so are you. So are all of us, beings of light with tremendous power and light that will never extinguish. Nevertheless, there are differences between human souls and God, the Supreme Soul, and these differences can be perceived in the light of the human souls, which is right now very dim. We understand that when this light of consciousness becomes just a very small spark, it is flickering constantly, then our consciousness experiences sorrow and more sorrow. God, the Supreme Soul, is remembered in all traditions and by all human beings as being the one who is able to remain constantly and forever and ever and always powerful. And that power of God is related to his ability to stay always in the light. It is his own light that is perceived, but God has that personality that reminds us that we are also light, and we also have now the option and the opportunity to reignite our inner light. God is neither bigger or smaller than the human souls. It is not a difference between us in size. Just because someone is very smart, they don't have to have a big size. Even in humankind, people can be very short, very small, very insignificant in their appearance, but their ideas and their capability can be tremendous. So we understand that the form of the soul is like a point of light. And so is a form of the Supreme Soul of God. There is no difference in the form of souls. There is no difference in the size, and we also understand that we all have the same home. Both God and the human soul are residents of the same home, the supreme home, the highest on high, eternal, original home. Then where are the differences? Well, as we said, God has this capability of remaining always in the awareness of the home, which means that God is always aware that he is a soul. He is always aware that he is the highest on high, supreme soul, and he is always able to maintain his purity. God is the only soul that is ever pure. And that is a place where the difference begins between human souls and the Supreme Soul, the extent of our purity. God remains ever pure, whilst the human soul goes into this journey of awareness, this journey of consciousness, which ultimately reduces to a journey from purity to complete impurity. To start with, the extent of purity of the human soul is that of God. We start as being supremely pure. Supremely pure means we are full, we are content, we are not impressed with anything or anyone, and we are not attracted by anything or anyone. When the soul is coming into the association with the human body, in association with this physical reality, this physical world, then the awareness starts to descend. From the awareness of being supremely pure, we start to descend into our association with the body. And we have described in our previous episodes how this descent takes place from one age to another. It is as if the descent of the human consciousness goes in stages. And we describe the first stage corresponding to the first age of the human world as the age of you, the age of truth, the age of peace and purity and happiness. And in that age, the human soul is able to see God in others. It is not that God is really here with us. As we said, God remains always in the awareness of the home, but the human soul can see that divinity, that beauty, that truth in others. That stage of awareness is followed by the next stage, which we may call the age of I. And in that age, the soul is able to see the beauty of the self, the truth, the unlimited peace, the unlimited love. But there is already a descent. We are already less able to look at others and to see their truth. And we are starting to be focused on us. The I and mine are born. We start to believe that I and mine mean something. And from here, there is just one step into sorrow. At some point, there is a break from that awareness that we are wonderful and we are unlimited beings of light into the consciousness of being bodies, consciousness of being limited. The intellect shrinks to the extent that we believe we are only what we see. And that is as if another age, the age of I don't know, called in our scriptures, neti neti, we don't know, you don't know, no one knows. And by the end of our journey in this human world, not only that we don't know, but we don't trust anyone. And our feelings are of hate. In the bottom end, the humankind has now reached the lowest point of our awareness. And there may be people in this world who are advocating the progress that is happening right now in the world as being a sign of a higher consciousness. We can inquire if that is the case. We can question whether having the benefits of science and the civilization that is created based on science, does that have any impact on our consciousness? Is our consciousness as we understand it now higher than it was 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago? There are certain aspects of consciousness that we can judge on an objective way. And first is the awareness of who am I? And as we see right now in the world, everyone believes that they are bodies. That awareness of being a body is much lower than the awareness of being a soul, which existed in the past. Another sign of the level of consciousness is our vision. Our vision is pretty dark right now. We envision a future world of complete upheaval. We fully understand now that the nature is not cooperating with humankind anymore. We understand the consequences of exploiting the nature, and we see these changes at the global level, and in particular the global climate change that exists right now in this world. We understand that is a consequence of our human society behaving in such a way for a long period of time that right now nature cannot cooperate with us anymore. So our vision of the future is pretty dark, and no one can really uplift us. There is almost as if no hope in our vision of this planet and our future. And then another aspect of consciousness is at the level of our thinking. Our thoughts are negative, obsessive, cyclical thoughts. There is unprecedented mental illness on the planet right now. Depression, sadness, insomnia, people cannot sleep, people cannot smile, people cannot eat because they are troubled by their negative thoughts. All these signs are signs of a much lower consciousness than it existed in the past. The spiritual model explains that from the moment we have left our home, our supreme home, the home of peace, the home of silence, we have only came down the ladder of consciousness. And we have now reached the bottom end. Despite of all the results of science and all the inventions of science, awareness, well-being of the human souls and of nature, of animal souls, the quality of inner life of each and every one on this planet has only decreased. Now, there is a time when we have reached the bottom of that. We cannot go any lower than that. Everyone has experienced all possible types of sorrow. So what next? Are we going to stay here? No, the good news, as we already mentioned, and I hope you can see the logic, the reason. That's the good news. We are going to go up finally. We are going to ascend in our awareness and consciousness. And I hope you can see the reasoning here that only God can bring us up once again. There is no one else in the history of humankind. We have seen that we have only went down the ladder. So no human being, no matter who they were and no matter who they are right now, no matter what position they have, they are not able to bring anyone up in awareness, in consciousness, apart from the one and only, the Supreme Soul, God, Allah, Khuda, Shiv, Bhagwan, Ishwar, Parameshwar, Dumnezeu, Jehovah. The only one that is mentioned by all human souls around the world. He is the one who can uplift now not only one human soul or two human souls, but the entire family of human souls. That is a task of the Almighty God, the Supreme Soul. As we said, that task can be accomplished by Him because He is unique. He is the only one who remains always in the awareness of our highest on high, supremely pure home. That means that God is the one who remains in that environment, in that awareness that allows Him to remain constant, stable, perfect, and ever pure. This environment allows Him to remain almighty and to remain knowledgeful forever. It is knowledge, the essential part that changes our destiny. There is nothing in this world that happens without education. Education is uplifting human souls. Education is uplifting societies. Education will save the whole human world from sorrow. As we are discussing here, we are discussing in a university. It is named Brahma Kumari's World Spiritual University. And it is imparting knowledge that is received from God Himself in order to uplift human souls. We understand that it is not the task of one human soul. It is not my knowledge. It is not the knowledge of any human being or any human organization. It is God, the Almighty, the one who is ever pure, ever loving, ever knowledgeful, that comes and uplifts the human souls by reminding them that, first of all, they are eternal, divine beings of light, and they belong to an eternal, divine home with Him. In giving this knowledge, God reminds human souls that they are immortal and that they are the residents of this immortal home where He resides. God in the home, God is the supreme soul, as we explained in our universe. He is the central point of our home. In the association with the physical world, in our human world, God takes the role of a mother and a father. He is the supreme mother, the supreme father, the one that takes the responsibility of awakening all human souls. As a mother and a father, He is supremely loving. He includes everyone. He nurtures and nourishes and cares for each and every human soul. In order to achieve his task or her task, to remind everyone of who they are and where they belong, God has only one way of doing it, and that's it: education, education, and more education. It is through the study of the spiritual knowledge that human souls will be able to wake up. That awakening is not overnight, and next physical day, the soul may fall asleep again. It is okay. God is ever pure, ever knowledgeful, ever blissful, ever loveful. He is still available, day by day, week by week, month by month. He is still available now to human souls to wake up and to realize that now is the time for our consciousness to go upwards. Just realize the potential to come out now from this tremendous sorrow that exists in the world, and not only for one human soul, but for the entire world, for nature as well as for the animal souls. This is what God is bringing us now as a gift on the palm of His hand. He is bringing us the knowledge about soul, about the world, about the home, and He is also guiding us. Our moments of reflection, of meditation, of contemplation, our moments of experiencing the home and the qualities of God in the home is the method to make this knowledge realized, to transform the points of knowledge into the truth, to remember our truth. From the very beginning of this series, we mentioned no one can take us back home. God's task is to remind us of who we are and to show us the way. You have to remember who you are, and you have to remember the way back home. No one can do that journey for you. Only you can apply and can understand and can put into practice these points of knowledge. This amazing awareness is now the awareness that is a possibility of each and every human soul. And this creates a new age on earth. This is a fifth, unknown, incognito, invisible age of benefit for the whole humankind. We can call it the age of God. Throughout the whole human history, as we said, our awareness, our consciousness went down from a very beautiful awareness of how wonderful you are to the awareness of how wonderful I am, to the awareness of I don't know, someone should show me and hopefully God can enlighten me, to the awareness of no one knows, there is no hope and there is only sorrow. From that place, we can now go into the awareness of knowing God. No other time through the whole history of humankind did we have the opportunity, the possibility, the capability to understand and to know God. This is the only time in our whole existence as a human world and as individual human souls to be close to God, to know God, to take His hand and His friendship, to accept His tremendous love, to put into action His suggestions, His directions, His advice. This is the only time when we can meet God face to face. This is the only time when I, the human soul, can be in the company of the Supreme Soul, the Supreme Friend, the Supreme Husband or Wife, and the Supreme Child. Will you take this time now? Will you take this opportunity now to grasp and to grab God's hand? It is enough to grab one finger and He will hold your hand until the end. There is an end of our journey in this awareness. The moment that we reach the topmost level, we will experience being again in our home. And that is wonderful. Home, sweet home. We will return back home. So what next after returning home? Let us discuss tomorrow in our final episode of this series. Let's finish now with a few moments of experiencing once again our home. We become completely detached from the body and from the association with the physical world. Supremely detached, as if we are far, far away from this world. And we take a leap of faith. The consciousness is as if jumping into the consciousness of the Supreme Home. And here we are in the presence of God. The soul is connected closely to the Supreme Soul. And in silence, we experience this closeness. Thank you for listening, and join us tomorrow for the last episode of the Home series. Have a wonderful day.